Whatever the reason, and I place it there, the proposal that the Bush administration presented a couple of days later on Saturday was unacceptable to us. It was a proposal that requested an enormous amount of money, a number that had not been suggested to us 2 days earlier, $700 billion. It talked about unparalleled, unheard of powers for the Secretary of the Treasury, where he would have powers free of judicial review or the oversight of any federal agency, as well as the ability to use the revenues that might come in any way that he wished, to name a few of those powers. Working together in a bipartisan way, we fashioned an alternative. Democrats insisted that if this was so necessary to bail out Wall Street, that we had to insulate the American people and Main Street from the crisis on Wall Street. We insisted on protecting the taxpayer as we stabilized the markets. That meant having very serious oversight that had been lacking. That meant also having forbearance for the homeowners so that people who were responsible could stay in their homes with the help of their lender, that will now be the federal government. That we had, and we had two issues that we all agreed, Democrats and Republicans alike, the reform of CEO compensation. The President acknowledged these issues in his speech a few nights ago, where he talked about oversight, homeowners, compensation, and equity, another issue to protect the taxpayers, where in addition to infusing cash and buying up this paper from these institutions, the American people could get the upside of those transactions. We debated for a number of days. We went back and forth and negotiated. And then last night it came down to three issues. How this money would be distributed. Many thought that it didn't have to go out $700 billion all at once. Golden parachutes and compensation for CEOs. We had strong resistance from the administration on that subject, as well as an insistence that we had that the American taxpayer was not going to pay this price. That if this $700 billion investment did not come back whole, that is to say, earn itself back, if there was any shortfall, then the financial institutions would pay that price, not the U.S. taxpayer. Again, working in a bipartisan way, we sent a message to Wall Street. The party is over. The era of golden parachutes for high-flying Wall Street operators is over. No longer will the U.S. taxpayer bail out the recklessness of Wall Street. And that's the news that this legislation brings. Again, we want to insulate the American taxpayer, Main Street, everyday Americans from the crisis on Wall Street. People have to know that this isn't about a bailout of Wall Street. It's a buy-in so that we can turn our economy around and we can help people who are saving for their pensions and retirement, for the education of their children, saving so that they can stay in their homes. Small businesses can get credit so they can continue their transactions. The list goes on, and it comes down to one word: jobs. Jobs, so we can create jobs in our country. And now I'm very pleased to say that under the leadership of Harry Reid in the United States Senate, it has been a joy to work with him. He really gets impatient about the lack of decision sometime, and under his leadership, this was brought together last night expeditiously so that we can come before you today. We had two great field marshals in this, in the House, Barney Frank, chair of the Financial Services Committee, and who just his mastery of the subject matter, the knowledge of personalities, and occasional good humor that he injected into it made this legislation possible. And on the Senate side, Senator Chris Dodd, chairman of the Financial do you call it Financial Services? Banking Committee. That's what it used to be in the House. The Banking Committee in the Senate, with great expertise as a maestro, bringing the Senate Democrats and Republicans together in that regard. So the bipartisan plan was carefully negotiated to restore confidence in the markets, and to protect the American taxpayer. I'm pleased that the three gentlemen I mentioned are here. One other, Charlie Rangel, helped us a great deal on the House side from the Ways and Means Committee. But I want to pay special mention of Rahm Emanuel, a person who has had experience with the financial markets, who is well known for his knowledge in that field and respected on both sides of the aisle, and I think up and down Pennsylvania Avenue. And his work was indispensable to our reaching a compromise last night. As before I yield to Senator Reid, I just want to tell everyone that I am now informed that at this moment you can find the plan on financialservices.house.gov. financialservices.house.gov, and then, if not there, on speaker.gov. It's there for all Americans to see, for our members to read, so they can make the important decision they have to make tomorrow in the House. I want to say that later, when this bill passes and it is implemented, all of the transactions related to this legislation will be on the Internet within 48 hours, and that represents change. That transparency, that oversight will be very important to the health of our economy. And now, again, I want to acknowledge the great leadership of Senator Reid, who just had enough and said these negotiations must come to an end, and I thank him for his leadership in this in so many ways.